Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So good evening, dear ones. This is, of course, our discussion of Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. And so what we're going to do this evening, as we resume our classes after the little break, is we're going to have an open forum on what Swami Vivekananda told us so far in all these chapters we've read. If you recall, Swami starts with a definition of Maya. He goes on to talk about evolution and the fact that each of us was involute, contained within the first seed that burst forth in what we call in astrophysics the Big Bang. Each of us, the seed of our being was there. And it has been evolving ever since, that involute. And he used the example of both an acorn and even smaller, a banyan seed. For those of you who've seen what banyans can become, from one tiny seed, a banyan tree can cover acres because its roots travel under the ground and then produce a new trunk. And so there'll be this great banyan forest that is in fact one tree from one seed. All the instructions for that entire forest are contained in that one tiny seed. And so Vivekananda says that we are evolving toward realization, evolving toward freedom. And as a matter of fact, he says, now I'm jumping ahead, but I'll jump ahead and then jump back. He says, we're never really bound. We're never really unfree. But it seems so to us because of the nature of Maya. And then he went on to discuss the nature of religion. What is religion? And he discussed it in a historical context and in the immediate context of the London and New York in which he was delivering these talks. And he talked about the formalities of most religious traditions and what they produce and they don't produce. And he talked about ethics and humanism and what they produce and what they don't produce. And he talked about the nature of the society in which we live today, which of course is painfully limiting, painfully limiting. And so then he goes on to discuss with us the nature of our true being, the Atman, that which is resident within each of us. It seems to be separate, but of course is not. And the fact that that being is never bound, does not born, it does not take birth, does not die. And that that is the truth of who we really are. So I would like to really have an open forum now with all of you. Any of these things that you would like to comment on from your own wisdom or experience, or any concern that you have about what the Swami raised. As he said, some of this is frightening. Of course, he was talking to audiences who were perhaps more limited than the audience he's addressing as he speaks to us. But any concerns you have, or anything that is left as a question in your mind, what is it that the Swami meant by such and such? So anything at all from anyone, please.
So, Brother Shankara, I was really struck last week by the sentence when he said what he did about desire, as long as there is desire or want, kind of shows that you're not free yet. And it really just, everything from morning, I got Girl Scout cookies this week. So the cookies are in there and I really want one.
Yeah.
And it really made me think about not just desire in like wanting a car or house, but like intricate, small little things that you want, like a cookie or maybe a cold shower or something like that. And I think he's been building all of this way to kind of show us the difference of our what we can't see versus what we're all striving for is liberation. And for me this week, I've seen that word desire all over the place for, you know, like Girl Scout cookies and places that I never thought about it. And it's just really made me see when I'm not focused on being mindful of the absolute. So
well, there it is, Dennis. You in a sense raised the answer to your to this business. It's the nature of this breathing being, this jiva. That's what the jiva means, something that breathes. The nature of this breathing being is to desire. It is when we begin to disidentify with that breathing being and identify with the witness, the Atman, that then we become totally free. Though the breathing being will continue to want Girl Scout cookies, and good, you're supporting the Girl Scouts. What's wrong with that? Or a cold shower or anything, as you said. But what happens is these desires arise and pass away, arise and pass away, arise and pass away. And when we are sitting in that witness seat and seeing that, then they no longer have any real hold on us. Of course, this thing is going to want something as long as it is alive. Adi Shankaracharya points that out in the last 2 chapters of his great book, his workbook on Advaita Vedanta, called The Crest Jewel of Discrimination. Even the illumined soul, as long as they are embodied, as long as they remain embodied, their prarabdha karma, though that vector that they were on that brought them into this life is going to manifest. And so they have to constantly be returning to the truth that they have, as they have realized it. So in your case, Dennis, I would just say, no harm, no foul. You know, Girl Scout cookies, wonderful. You know, enjoy them. Sri Ramakrishna said, you've come to the mango grove, eat the mangoes. But don't be attached to them. And by all means, do not count how many mango trees there are, and how many branches there are on the mango tree, and how many leaves there are on a branch, and how many mangoes there are, and so on. All that left brain stuff is just a way to keep us distracted from the truth. But to eat the mangoes, of course.
So is the purpose then to, as you're made aware that maybe you're desiring Girl Scout cookies or hot or cold shower, then to be in that place of the witness instead of being involved and wrapped up, like you said, counting the mangoes, the trees, the seeds. So you're just kind of observing all of that.
Well, that's what the Swami led us to in these last two talks, that you are the Atman, and the Atman is the witness of all this and is never bound, does not take birth, does not die. It is the eternal, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being. And our awareness of it is this witness that we discover as we practice prayer, contemplation, concentration, and meditation. We become more and more aware that I am not all of this that appears before me. This is a movie playing in front of me. I am that witness, and that is the face of the eternal, the changeless, the infinite. And the more we identify with that, the less we identify with the other. And this is what Swami Sridharananda calls divinizing our life. We start out as saying, I am. Then something awakens in us, and we say, I am, and thou art. Over time, we understand, thou art, therefore I am. So it flips. The thou art comes first. And therefore I am. And ultimately, all that is real to us is thou art. But that's realization. That's the Savikalpa Samadhi comes when we have this sense of thou art, therefore I am. We can't really say anything about what happens when we know only thou art. But it's because the knower is left behind. The left mind is left behind. So there is no experience in that highest state. But there's plenty for us before we get to that highest state. Just the awakening of I am and thou art. That's what draws us to this path. We know there's something beyond this breathing being. We sense it. Anything more, Dennis? This is perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping would happen.
It's very helpful, kind of just to remember, to be from the witness consciousness instead of the doing. So
and we fall away from it all the time. We're in the witness position, and then suddenly we find ourselves absorbed in our thoughts and our activities, and this I want this, and I want this to happen, and la da 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 da. And then we say, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing it again. and we pull back into that witness position. As Vivekananda says, we fall 1,000 times, we rise 1,001 times. Until finally, we are established in that witness seat. And then we discover that behind us is, so to speak, as we sit in that seat, is what we truly are. Anyone else? Anything at all from all of what Swami Vivekananda presented to us in these chapters that we've read?
I was also thinking on the same line as Dennis, that what's in the way, when you said that, okay, we will open forum, I was thinking what's in the way of like me realizing, and these are the desires or attachments or whatever we want to call it. And I was thinking, like, okay, the physical things are there. And then there's also like, I want to be right. There's so much desire to be right.
Oh,
like
yes.
I say something, somebody negates it. No, I have to justify, I have to tell.
Right.
Oh my God. And then,
Yes.
like, if I have opinion about someone that this person is mean, I am right, he's mean. Like that, I sometimes I feel like, what am I doing to myself?
Yes.
That to prove or being acknowledged. That was the third thing. That I want somebody to know that, okay, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yes. Oh, yes, we want that. The desire to be loved and is one thing, and that is pure. The desire for ego recognition. How dare they speak to me that way? Or don't they know who they're talking to? All of that. Well, that's very easily explained. The neuroanatomists have got it down pat. It's just the left limbic system trying to protect us from being in any way harmed. And then the left cerebral cortex explaining everything and as you say, justifying and wanting to be justified. It's all just this activity in the left cerebral cortex. And it goes on and 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 on. And so then, we just withdraw from it and we say, oh, I love you so much. I love you so much, you breathing being. But boy, howdy, are you comical sometimes? Just how you insist on things. And, this breathing thing is going to be born, is going to evolve into what it evolves into, and then it's going to pass away. So all that insistence on this and that and the other thing adds up to what? As Sri Ramakrishna says, it adds up to a string of zeros. It isn't until we put the one in front of the string of zeros that there's some significance. The one being the eternal, changeless, infinite being, or the Atman or Brahman, or however you want to talk about it. But, all the rest is this string of zeros. They add up to nothing, in other words. 0 plus 0 is 0.
Yeah. But at that time, this seems so real, and that seems like this is life. This is so like I have to fight it.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's called Mahamaya. It's meant to distract us. The thing that we can remember is that we, as the divine being, somehow wanted this distraction. We wanted this ability to be, create, do, and share together. So it's Brahman's dream. So it has all of Brahman's power and compelling presence behind it. So that's why it's called Mahamaya. And we can continue to dance. There's a wonderful poem by Hafiz that begins this way. You have not danced so badly, my sweet crushed angel. You have not danced so badly, my sweet crushed angel. And so that's just why we should be so compassionate and loving toward one another. So understanding and so not judgmental.
Shankar, I'll be right back. Somebody's at the door.
Anyone else? Anything at all?
I truly agree with the Somesh and Dennis, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
And I know, I'm sure majority of us were there at one time arguing that we are right. We had to prove. As meditation ripens, I realize we no longer have to prove to anyone. That's the sign of the meditation, manifesting the meditation. I realized last few years, God, as the meditation ripens, I no longer has to prove to anyone to anything. Just calmness, equanimity develops automatically. You kind of stay calm and you accept both negative and positive equally to your soul. And you realize that you are really becoming one with the spirit. One with the spirit. You are manifesting that meditation. It takes time. It did definitely take so many years of meditation. But I'm on that path. I can see I'm slowly walking on that path.
Yes.
And that feels so fulfilling. It doesn't matter who attacks you with the negative criticism. It just don't hurt you anymore. They just don't attack you anymore. It reflects back to them. You stay calm, and it's like silence is golden, speech is silver. So you practice silence, and I see that. And I also learned religion is manifestation of divinity within me. That's one of the things through Jnana Yoga. I learned religion is nothing but manifestation of divinity within myself.
Yes.
And true religion is self-realization. Once we realize that self, then we are like on that journey towards more spirituality.
Each soul is potentially divine.
Yes.
And in the sense that there's energy in a battery.
Yes.
But until you attach something to the anode and cathode of the battery, you don't know there's any energy in there. You don't know whether you might even know what a battery is, but you don't know whether there's any energy until you attach to the poles of the battery. Well, that's what Swami Vivekananda meant when he said each soul is potentially divine. That energy is within you. That truth is within you. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. And then he goes on to explain how. And when we get onto that, when we begin to understand, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's why I've been feeling so trapped. And so Swami Vivekananda says, we are the infinite dreamer dreaming finite dreams.
Yes.
And we are he says, and then he says, regarding what you were talking about, is, people attacking you, and praise or praised, blame or blamed are one. They're just one. So you can be what Sri Krishna calls the Chitta Prajna, the person of perfect equanimity, as you said.
Yes.
I just sit and I watch, this person does this person does that. Somebody says good things, somebody says bad things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just something happening in our presence. For those of you who joined us late, what we're doing is we're doing an open forum on what we've studied so far in these chapters of Jnana Yoga. And we're reviewing what the Swami told us. and we're bringing up any thing from our own wisdom or experience that seems important, or we're raising any concerns that remain with us, or asking any questions that seem to come to our minds about the things that the Swami has told us about the nature of reality, the nature of who we are, because he's reviewed all of reality. He starts with the what we in Western science call the Big Bang, and it says that everything was involute at that point, and it's been expressing itself ever since. It's been evolving ever since. And he got to the point in the last two talks, talking to us about the Atman, the truth of our being, and how, now that we're aware of that, the process of our expansion, our evolution, will accelerate, and we will ultimately come to realization. First, in the Savikalpa sense of it being an experience, and then it's in some way beyond that, the ultimate realization, which is beyond thought and speech. So anything else from anyone about all of these things that Swami Vivekananda covered over these chapters?
Brother Shankar, I have a question as well.
Yes, please, Sumesh.
And while you were talking, I think I answered it, or maybe I did not. So I'm just going to put it out there. That in one of the chapter, he mentioned that like nothing can be created or nothing can be destroyed. It's just changing from one form to another. And I was thinking that means we say hatred or jealousy or those emotions that what we call negative emotions. They are also not created or destroyed. They were always there. Or it is like, and while you were saying, another thought came to my mind is that actually, if I look at it, hate is nothing but like another way to love, or that's how we say it.
Yes,
So
yes.
it existed. It's just that now we are seeing it a different way, and we are referring it as hate, but it's nothing but nothing different than love.
You're absolutely right, dear. And let me give you a beautiful, objective example. There is still in Southern California a narcotics treatment program called Narcanon, Narcotics Anonymous. These people, some of them, live together and practice together their overcoming their attraction to that kind of self-medication through narcotics. They have a game called the string game, the string game. And there are 3 strings. One is less than an inch long, one string. And you hold one end, I hold the other, and it's so short that our fingers will touch. This is the love string. Then there's the hate string. The hate string is an inch and a half long. You can hold one end and I can hold another and not quite touch, but we're still that close, that close. And then there is the indifference string, the indifference string. The indifference string is so big that it goes all around the room. I can hold one end and walk all around the room. You can hold the other end and walk all around the room and never encounter one another. And so this is, they play the game with these 3 strings. Which one do you want to hold? So this is the truth, just as you said. Hatred and love are just mirror images of one another. And when we recognize that, and when we recognize what's going on within ourselves, then we can sit in that witness position. And as you said, nothing is created or destroyed, only transformed. Then it transforms. Then we have the possibility of transformation. And we can hold the love string. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes, indeed. Even our negative emotions, again, quoting Hafiz, all our thoughts are innocent steps on the path. No matter what we may feel about them in the moment. And this is embedded in a beautifully profound poem. All our thoughts are just innocent steps on the path. We're always going forward. And no matter how it seems to us in the moment, we are the divine being having this experience of being human. And it has all these aspects to it, which we can learn to observe from a lover's distance. This is why over and over in the literature of mystical spirituality, you find the word lover or beloved. You know, Rumi constantly talks about the beloved, the lover. Thank you, Somesh. Anything else from anyone? I see we've been joined by some others. We're having an open forum on what we've studied so far in these classes. And by the way, all of the weekday classes, for those of you who joined us late, and late as far as we were concerned, all of the classes now start at 7:30, the weekday classes, rather than 8 o'clock. The reason is simple. I need to get to bed earlier. I've discovered that. So that's why I asked that the classes be moved back. So we're starting at 7:30 rather than 8 o'clock. So to this evening, we're having an open forum on all that we've learned from Swami Vivekananda, all we've heard from him over these chapters that we've studied so far, ending with these two talks on the Atman, the truth of our being, starting with how we came to be at all, with the opening chapters on what we would call in Western science the Big Bang, and the fact that everything was involute and has been evolving since then. So anything from your own wisdom or experience, anything you'd like to add to the discussion from that, or any concern that remains in your mind, or any question you'd like to ask. This is an open forum this evening on Swamiji's Jnana Yoga. Anything at all?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
The saying that in Gita that even if you practice a little bit of this, someone will come forward to help you.
Yes.
Addition,
that's said in the gospel, actually.
Oh.
Krishna says it a little differently, but it's the same message. It's in the gospel. Sri Ramakrishna says, practice just a little and someone will come forward to help you.
Right.
So anyway,
so I was just it came to my mind that sometimes we are looking outside for someone to come and help, and that happens too. I mean, like like you or the fellow devotees and swamis.
Exactly.
But also there's something within that, like Haima said, automatically we change when we do this concentration, contemplation and meditation. In the past, when say I would get upset and I would try to just suppress it because I don't like conflict, or now it doesn't seem that much of effortful. It fades away much more easily. The acceptance comes more easily.
Yes, we can release it. This is what This is what Swami Yogatmananda told us when he came one time. Discrimination, the vairagya part, of renunciation. He says it isn't really renunciation. It's simply letting it go. Letting it go. Don't hold on. And as you just said, and as Haima, as you said, referring to what Haima said earlier, it automatically happens when we practice contemplation. So it was starting with prayer, contemplation, concentration, and meditation. We gather together the energy. This is what's meant by recollectedness. The energy of our mind, of our awareness, is scattered by Maya. We gather it together, we recollect it by reminding ourselves and reminding ourselves and reminding ourselves of the truth. And this is why Swamiji delivered all these talks, 9 volumes worth. You look at his complete works, you're just stunned. He talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked so that people could find something in that talking that would help them recollect the truth, recollect the energy of their awareness, and focus it on the truth. Thank you, Swami. Anything else from anyone? Okay, so let's just go over again so that maybe it'll remind you of something that you do want to talk about. Where Swamiji started with this. He started off by talking about what in Western science we call the Big Bang. The fact that something happened, and where there was no manifestation, there is now manifestation. And that involute, that is contained within that very first moment when there seemed to be nothing, and then there seemed to be something, which was only plasma in that beginning. That contained in that was everything, including each one of us as we are here this evening. The seed of that was there. And he used a couple of examples, the acorn seed, and even more potently in a way, the banyan seed. For any of you who have been exposed to what banyans can become, from this one tiny seed, there will be one tree. It seems to be many, but it's not really. It's one tree growing that was started from that one tiny seed, and it will cover acres because its roots grow under the ground and then spring up a new trunk. And so you get this banyan forest that is really, truly only one tree. So the idea is that all the instructions for everything that we have been, that we are now, and that we will become are contained in that moment. And then he says, so then he explains what is Maya. And he essentially says everything that we can experience, anything that is available to us through our organs of action and organs of perception, that's Maya. So get over it, essentially is what he says. There's no sense arguing about it or contesting it. It's not something that's being done to us. We did it to ourselves. That is to say, we are the divine being that wanted this to happen. Manifestation. And so then he goes on to discuss the roots of religion and all of the expressions over time, over these many, many, many thousands of years, that human beings have become more and more self-aware and more engaged. And then he talks about the modern expressions, the modern spiritual traditions and humanism and ethics and all of this. And he explains how they fall short because they don't really address the truth of our being. They address Maya. So the truth of our being, he then says, is accessible when we turn within. And there we find the Atman. And the first evidence of the Atman is this witness consciousness. That all of this that is Maya is something that is happening in front of us, like a motion picture playing on a screen. It is not us. We're not attached to it. But as Dennis pointed out earlier, I'll want a Girl Scout cookie, or I'll want a nice shower. No harm, no foul. Just don't be attached. Just eat the mangoes. Sri Ramakrishna said, you've come to the mango grove, eat the mangoes. Enjoy this, but just don't get lost in it. Don't start counting the mango trees, counting how many mangoes are on each tree. Just eat the mangoes. And then, as Jesus said, it's so beautiful, Jesus' shortest instruction, be passers-by. So, and accept, as again in the Christian Gospels, accept the Lord's invitation to the feast when you feel it. Don't make some excuse for not coming to the feast. Anything else from anyone?
As you know, you might know, I'm reading another work by Prabhupada, Realizing God.
Yes, Brahmadas.
And in it, he talks about Shankara, and he says that, what did he say? But we cannot realize the truth of Brahman by simply uttering the word Brahman. It doesn't happen. He says if there is a buried treasure and you say, treasure come out, it doesn't come out. You have to take a shovel and dig, then you get the treasure. Similarly, there are methods and means, spiritual disciplines, which we have to practice for this ignorance to break. But first, Shankara gives 3 conditions: human birth, the desire for the truth of God, and the grace of a guru. And the thought occurred to me, those of us who are here have those 3 because clearly we have a human birth. We have the desire for truth, which is why we're coming to these meetings. And most of us have been initiated by a Swami, so we have the grace of a guru too. So I think we
yes, indeed, all of what you just said is true, Brahmadas. But even if you don't have a guru, Swami Vivekananda has not gone anywhere. That's why he's present with us tonight as we're talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm leaving the body because I'll be more effective without it. That's what he said. And if you don't think, and I'm not saying you do think this, each of us, if we reach out to Vivekananda, if we say, and you can't just say it once, you have to be persistent, you have to be persevering and patient, and then live in the expectation it will be true. Say to Swamiji or any of these great souls, come to me. What does Sri Ramakrishna mean when he says, practice just a little and someone will come forward to help you? That someone will come forward. This is practicing just a little, is this asking. And as Haima pointed out earlier, it doesn't happen in a week, it doesn't happen in a month, it doesn't happen in a year. It takes some years, but that's such a short time, really. So keep at it. But if you want the help of a Vivekananda, of a Prabhavananda,
I do. I need their help. Absolutely.
Yes. So just ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can go to the Christian Gospels. Christ could not have been more explicit. Ask and ye shall receive. And then what? There's this wonderful, absolutely transcendently wonderful parable of the prodigal child. He demands his inheritance before his father dies. And his father doesn't say no, he gives it to him. And the son, it has this, in this case, it's a boy. The son goes and just wastes it all. And of course, as long as he has all this money, he has lots of friends, everything's wonderful. As soon as it's all gone, nobody loves you when you're down and out.
Those sound like good friends.
Yeah, they're good friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're fair weather friends.
Fair weather friends.
So what? He ends up slopping the hogs. That's the only job he can get, slopping hogs. And finally he says, these hogs eat better than I do. I'm going to go home to my father. And I'm not going to come home and demand to be his son again. I've let that not happen. I'll go home and ask to be his servant. Now just listen to what happens. His father sees him coming from afar and runs to greet him. And the son rehearses his little speech. Oh, Father, I betrayed your trust. I'm not worthy to be your son, but please receive me back at home as your servant. And his father says, what are you talking about? My son has returned to me. Bring the family ring. Bring the finest robe. Bring his sandals. Kill the fatted calf. When we turn back in this direction, as Sri Ramakrishna says, you take one step toward God, God will take 100 steps toward you.
Right.
Practice just a little and someone will come forward to help you. So if you want Vivekananda as your teacher, you don't have to have an embodied guru. It's wonderful to have an embodied guru. And any of you who want Diksha, Swami Sarvadevananda will offer you Diksha, Swami Chetanananda in St. Louis, other Swamis, that you might be drawn to, you can ask them for Diksha. So if you want an embodied guru, that's there too. But just ask. And I'm telling you from my own experience. In 1975, I said to Swami Vivekananda, I prayed to Swami Vivekananda day after day for some time, Swami, make me a part of this. I had gotten so excited by reading what we've been studying, Jnana Yoga. And I just said, it's something finally that sounds like the truth, something that is the truth.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I began to say, Swami, make me a part of this. And he did. And that's why I'm sitting here tonight. I'm telling you the gospel truth. So don't think that any of these beings are inaccessible to you. They are, as Swami Vivekananda also said in a letter to a friend who was feeling desolate, he said, we're all together at one geometric point, no matter how it seems to us. So just ask and ye shall receive. Thank you, Brahmadas. And, I'm glad you're reading that book. That book it is transformative.
I see a parallel between what the Swami said in modern popular fiction. The Swami said, I'm leaving this body because I'll be more effective without it, right?
Yep.
Well, in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Darth Vader when they're having a fight with the lightsabers, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine. And of course, Darth Vader wipes him out, and then he does become powerful. So,
Yes.
An interesting parallel.
You know who coached George Lucas in launching that Star Wars saga? Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell, the great student of mythology and the great teacher hero with 1,000 faces and so on.
Hmm.
Well, Joseph Campbell was for quite a time the president of the East Side Center of the Vedanta Ramakrishna Vivekananda Society of New York, the East Side Center in New York. So it was Joseph Campbell who coached George Lucas into creating Star Wars. He said, "We need a new mythology. You do it."
I can believe that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi was a spiritual warrior. He was a Jedi Knight. Anybody else? All right, let me just ask a question. When you recollect your mind and focus it on this idea of the Atman, this witness consciousness, how do you feel? What do you feel when you do that? Anyone can answer.
I, I would say I experience, like, do not experience anything, but I would say I experience nothingness. That's what I would say. That's nothing. I don't know if I can.
But in that nothingness,
Yeah.
is there any pain?
No.
No. There's no pain. And as you experience that nothingness more and more, you will find it is, the Sanskrit word is purna. Purna, full, complete, perfect. And it does not contain any pain. All of the pain is within Maya because of the duality. That and that nothingness. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, Somesh. Because that nothingness, it's called the void, but it is full. It is full of the presence. And yes, that is what we touch. Very well said. Anyone else? When you recollect yourself and focus that energy on these higher thoughts that the Swami has been talking to us about as the Atman, what happens to you?
Namaste, brother.
Namaste.
I feel immense peace, and then there follows relaxation and sleep.
Ha ha ha! And isn't it a sweet sleep? So say it again, please, Shailesh.
I just feel immense peace, and then relaxation, and then just I feel like sleepy, just sleeping, and that's probably very good sleep I get.
Being embraced by that love. So we feel relaxed, peaceful. And again, the pain is not there in that moment. So we can sleep. Thank you, Shailesh. Yes. And Haima said it earlier. She talked about this earlier, what happens. And we practice and we practice and we practice and we practice. And finally it becomes lodged within us. It's no longer an idea. It's no longer something we're doing. It's something we are being. And when that happens, as she pointed out, first of all, you become invulnerable to the world's attacks. And we're constantly being attacked. Whether it's by somebody or just by the relentless noise and delusion of this late Kali Yuga. It feels like an attack. It feels like you go out of the house You go out into the public and bam, first of all, you encounter all these people who aren't wearing any masks and you think, oh my God, do you want to die? Is that what's the matter? Do you want to die? So, like we're going to go shopping tomorrow. And fortunately, we're going shopping at a place where you cannot be there without a mask and having it properly worn. Trader Joe's. But, it's an assault when you go out of the house. There's no two ways about it. Anything else from anyone?
I feel weightless.
Say it again, Beverly, please.
I feel weightless.
Oh, how sweet. Weightless. Yes. Weightless. Yes. Not being pulled down by. And when you feel that way, Beverly, what happens next?
Tears, usually. Tears.
Tears. Ah. Yes.
Kind of relaxation. Like getting rid of left brain for a while.
Yeah, exactly. One of the people who lives here is Elizabeth Yates Jyoti. She had a teacher named Mukunda Stiles. And Mukunda Stiles, you talked about tears. Mukunda Stiles said, the practice of religion, the practice of true religion, it's wet. It's not dry. It's wet. The tears come.
It does.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And I love that word. I'm going to steal that. Weightless. Yes, weightless. Thank you, Beverly. For those of you who don't know who that is, Beverly's not a member of our immediate congregation. She lives in California. And she has been my dear friend since we were in high school together. And we graduated together in 1959 from high school. So, long time, dear, dear friend.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it does in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's almost the half hour. Is there anything else from anyone?
I could say, Brother Shankara, we kind of find heaven within us when we witness that Atman. It's like we don't have to look outward anymore, the heavenly feeling. It's already you realize that it is within you. We no longer have to search everywhere for that happiness and bliss, and it just kind of slowly enters in your soul.
Yes, and what is it that is said of heaven? There's no pain, no suffering.
No pain. Yes, exactly. Everyone added the words. It's the same.
And what does Krishna say in the Gita? When we achieve yoga, we break the contact with pain.
Exactly.
And even as Somesh said earlier, even if it's just for a few moments, we feel, and Shailesh said it.
Exactly.
We feel rest, relaxation.
Yes.
The pain is gone.
Peacefulness.
Maya, which we have created for ourselves, it isn't something that's imposed on us. This we must keep in mind constantly. It's not something done to us. We wanted to be, create, do, and share. That's the summary. The joys of these is why we're here. It's when we're truly tired of this, truly tired of the duality. We ate, quite aware of what we were doing, we ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, as it says in the Hebrew scriptures. We entered duality, and along with it comes pain and suffering. But the refuge has been, as has been pointed out by many of us here tonight in various ways, is right here, right within us. This stardust spacesuit is just a garment for the Atman, created for its own purposes. And as Krishna says in the Gita, it experiences what we experience through this. There are organs of action and perception, and thereby sanctions those experiences. We mustn't think that there's anything wrong with experiencing, of wanting a Girl Scout cookie or a shower or eating the mangoes. No. But when we're truly tired of this, we can just sign off and head for home. And Swami Vivekananda will take it up again next week, what more he has to say in this realm of Jnana Yoga. But it will just be, so to speak, frosting on the cake, embroidery on the edges of this great tapestry that he's woven for us so far. He's told us the truth. Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are the Atman. That's the truth of your being. And there is, once you're convinced of that, there is, as Beverly said, we become weightless. As was pointed out by Shailesh, you become relaxed. As Haima pointed out, you become invulnerable. All of which Sri Krishna fully describes in chapter 2 of the Gita. Cannot be wet, cannot be cut, cannot be, it doesn't, not dried by wind. So let us be encouraged by one another, by Swami Vivekananda, and by that great beating heart that is within us, that is the drawing room, as Sri Ramakrishna says, the drawing room of the personal God, who is there for no other reason than to unchain us and set us free. To unchain us and set us free. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless delusion to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So the next opportunity for us to get together will be on Saturday, where we'll continue our study of Swami Prabhavananda's book, How to Know God. And then this coming Sunday, the title of the talk is Chaitanya's Prayer, the Perfect Primer. We've been studying Bhakti Yoga this February, and it's the end of this month is very close to Chaitanya's birthday, which is in March. So I decided we just end the month with that. And if you haven't studied that prayer, Chaitanya's prayer, it is the perfect primer on Bhakti Yoga. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. And this is the promise of what many consider to be another incarnation of Vishnu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's quite a promise. So that's what we'll talk about on Sunday. And any final thought, anything at all from any of you? Okay. Well, until next time then, dears. I'm glad we had this open forum. I'm glad that so many of you said what was on your mind. And always the reminder that whether you say anything or not, you are contributing to this simply by your presence, because there only seem to be all of these people on the screen. There is truly only one, and the current flows among us, regardless of whether you verbalize it or not. So thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being with us. Good night. Jai Shri Ramakrishna Jai Ma.